Welcome to another meaningful episode of TP Trailblazer, where we spotlight conversations that shape not only the future of work, but also the kind of workplaces people genuinely deserve. Dream here hosting today's episode. As Pride Month is celebrated across the world, many organizations proudly raise rainbow flags, launch campaigns, and amplify messages of inclusion. But an important question remains: what happens after June? Because true inclusion is not measured by visibility alone. It is measured by the systems, opportunities, protections, and everyday experiences that make people feel genuinely seen, valued, and supported all year round. Today's conversation is about turning advocacy into action. It's about how organizations move beyond statements and create meaningful, tangible support for LGBTQIA+ employees through inclusive programs, people-first leadership, equitable benefits, and safe spaces where authenticity is not just welcomed, but empowered. At TP, inclusion is not confined to a single month. One meaningful example is our existing domestic partner HMO enrollment option, where employees, regardless of gender or marital status, may extend healthcare coverage not only to same-sex partners, but also to parents, children, and family members through accessible group rates and convenient salary deduction options. Because sometimes inclusion becomes meaningful not in slogans, but in systems that improve people's lives in practical and human ways. Joining us today is Michael Santos, Executive Director for PFIP, and Ivan Garong, Comms and Marketing Director and Board of Trustee at PFIP, as we explore how organizations can continue transforming pride advocacy into sustained and intentional action. Michael, Ivan, welcome to TP Trailblazer.
Hi, Dream.
Hi.
Hello, Dream. How are you?
How are you doing today?
Everything's fine. Thank you for having us here.
Oh, hooray, we're here, and thank you very much as well for doing this with us. It's such an honor to be your host for this podcast because I'm part of the TP Women group or community. Mm-hmm. But I also am a very strong support system of the LGBTQIA+, of course, community here at TP. So, all right. Well, I would like to ask a very simple question before we get down to the topic. Please, of course, because we can't just settle with your names or for your names, please tell us a little bit more about yourself. What do you do? Maybe we can add something interesting. What keeps you busy these days, or something interesting that you do? Who would like to go first? Ivan?
Okay, thank you. Okay, the youngest first before the most seasoned one. Yeah. I'm Ivan Garong. Preferred pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a proud gay man. At PFIP, my work with PFIP is entirely purely advocacy in nature. Aside from the vice chairperson of the board, we also really communicate to our member companies and even to the business sectors, because it's critical for us to know the value of inclusion from a business lens, because the association is comprises of almost 100 member organizations, 90% of which are globally established. And we wanted that in the Philippines, the locally established ones would see the value of inclusion, not just for the fact that it pertains for visibility, but also...
What do you do during your spare time? Something interesting.
Okay, aside from my gay job, which is on PFIP, my full-time job, I'm a communications and marketing director of Novara Technologies, a locally established technology firm in the country. Yeah, and we're expanding within the ASEAN region. We have acquired another company which is an Indian-owned, and we are more into promoting the value of digital transformation across the Filipino talent, highlighting the value of Filipino talent in digital transformation in the ASEAN region. Yeah.
Thank you, Ivan. So my name is Michael. I'm currently seated as the Executive Director of PFIP, but my name and face is very familiar to the PFIP Association because I started as a volunteer worked my way up to become a secretariat. I became a vice chair at one point.
Yeah, of the board.
Then
back
a
then.
board of trustee, and then an advisor. Right. So it's really for me the advocacy of helping and providing my knowledge in the DEI space pushed me to become the executive director. Right. But I cannot move away from PFIP. It's an advocacy that I love doing, and I think for the longest time. And currently right now I'm the oldest of the PFIP leaders. Soon they will call me Tito. Right? So they will call me Tito. I've been
Your
Tito
skin says otherwise.
Thank you so much. Sleep early.
Yeah.
6 to 7 hours. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm currently the change transformation officer of my company. And maybe let's go to the fun side because Ivan already gave what PFIP does.
Correct.
So for the fun side, when you're gay, people would always want to have a seat in the table, right? That has been a challenge to have a seat on the table. So true enough, it's a struggle or a challenge to have a seat at the table in the corporate setting. So what I did is I left work, I left corporate, and really built my table.
His own table and chairs.
Yes, because I'm a furniture restorer.
Literally.
Yes. I have a business that's house renovation. So it's really the building my own table. So now I have my own table, my own chair, and which I became the chief transformation officer as well of my company.
You should buy from him after this.
Yes. And
Share me your page.
if you would ask me what I do on a weekend, I reply to Ivan's messages and sometimes to Earl. But I have a cafe. We just opened a cafe last year, a cafe and a restaurant. Right, so the restaurant is really more of like the grill, the things that you do when you want to drink.
Oh, yes.
The things that you
Pulutan.
do. Yes, correct.
Something you want to eat with your eyes cold.
I know, right? Then on the other side of the cafe, the restaurant is a cafe, which we bake. Me and my sister bakes.
Yeah.
So that's my weekend.
I'll reach out to you soon.
Yeah.
Very domesticated,
I know,
Mr.
right?
ED.
Yeah, that's 10 pounds of weekend for you. Right? The day we opened the restaurant, I gained like 7 pounds.
It's okay, I'm a foodie.
Yes, you should
Yeah.
visit.
Good food is always welcome.
Jim, you should try their isaw.
Oh wow, I love street
famous
food,
isaw.
Isao. Really interesting. And I'm so happy to meet you today because now I know I think I'm gonna have new friends and definitely I have a new place to visit on a weekend or during my free time. Thank you very much for sharing those. And such interesting people. Now let's get down to what we need to talk about today. I have a list of questions, but of course I'm gonna be asking some more if you don't mind. I'm a very curious person, and I'm definitely sure that a lot of our listeners will benefit from our conversation today. And I know that we are doing this podcast because that's in line with our Pride Month celebration this June.
Happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Pride! Yes! Oh my gosh, we were able to plug that in. Happy Pride! Okay, so now to my let's get down to my first question. What metrics or indicators have you seen that prove inclusive workplaces genuinely improve employee retention, engagement, and innovation?
Well, throughout the member companies of PFIP, we've seen that anchoring from our research and surveys way back in 2021 and comparing it in 2024, we've launched to the grant given to us by the Dutch Embassy in the Philippines. It's the 2024 LGBT Workplace Inclusion Report. We've seen that in terms of retaining talents per se and increasing innovation in one's organization, having an employee resource group or employee clubs or business resource groups, it depends on how you call it, is critical in order for the organization to thrive because you are already setting up a set of community that belongs to the LGBTQ1. But that's where you put visibility in action. And aside from visibility, it's also critical when we talk about representation. This is where, like what Michael had said, the seat in the table. Right? Not every organization will give that opportunity for an LGBT leader to be part of a country leadership team, which is very critical, right? Now, another point that we would like to highlight that the importance of employee resource group is that you're gathering people like you. And this is where you see the commonality from values, from mannerisms, and of course, like the quirks. Like, have you seen the latest makeup? Have you seen the latest cute person, boy or girl? It depends on what sexual orientation you have, right? Along the hallways of the office and the like. So, and this is where the companies would give value on the importance of connecting with each other, right? So when you congregate, quote unquote, this is an avenue for you to see, aside from commonalities, what can the company that you belong to, like in TP, right? What can TP do for people like you? Thus, you collect more voices together, right?
Yeah, and I believe it's not just because there is already a certain group in the workplace. It's also because this group contributes a lot to the success and performance of the company. And definitely, we don't want to lose them just because of their gender or just because of their pronouns, right? We don't want to do that. I can still vividly remember there was an office mate of mine back in the day from a different company. He's so good, but there's perception management. Unfortunately for him, back in the day, and I'm talking about 17 years ago, there's still what you call perception management. And because although Filipinos are very accepting when it comes to the pride community, we were not very vocal back in the day in the corporate world. And he was eyeing for a position, but because he cross-dresses, he wasn't chosen for that position, but he's the one who should have gotten the post. And actually, he did several measures just to be interviewed. He had to change the way he looked or the way he dressed up. I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks leading to the interview. He started cutting his hair, started wearing suit, shirt, the usual men attire. But when I met him, he was wearing a dress or girly stuff because he identified himself as a woman. And then back then, I'm saying he because back then pronouns were not as, I'd say, it wasn't introduced yet to the masses, to us. But he's so great. And unfortunately, it happened to him. But that's actually the narrative that we want to change, right? And that definitely shows on the study that you just cited.
Yeah, and actually, that's actually one of the reasons why PFIP was established, to address workplace challenges like that. Because in PFIP, we want to be inclusive in the workplace, right? So in PFIP, it's a group of companies that share best practices, right? Because some companies has been doing it, some doesn't know that it's available. That's why we built PFIP, or we started to gather members to share those best practices. And I think one of the metrics that we could measure is, from an Asia perspective, is retention rates. When we have inclusive programs, retentions are better. Company referrals are better, right? Because when you enjoy the company, you refer your friends, you refer your family.
You're proud of the culture that you have,
yes.
right?
You breathe the culture, you live the culture, not only in the office but outside the office, right? And I think one of the, well, for me, in my 30 years of professional experience, right?
So people now are counting what's your age.
I know, right? I started when I was 5. But really, I think one of the strongest measure I would say that a company can have is when you start to hear people say, I belong here, I feel safe here, I love this company, the values are aligned with my personal values.
Which pertains to organizational culture. Now, before we go to organizational culture, it will focus much on what's happening on the ground. Like what we've seen throughout the member companies is that, and it's also supported by some research literatures globally and locally, is that leaders, regardless if you're a supervisor up to the senior management of an organization, you are considered a culture shaper, right? Now, in valuing one's culture, it's also critical that you value one's identity. And unfortunately, LGBT people like us, we were not regarded based on the identity that we would like to have. So it's critical for leaders to also know that aside from you being a culture shaper, it also adds on talent attraction and development on how you now manage the conversation from team huddles up to coaching, up to business or quarterly business reviews, either quarterly or depends on the frequency that you have. So that that's where the value of pronouns comes in, and which, as what Michael had mentioned earlier, one of the foundations of how inclusive the company is. Now, Michael also emphasized earlier the importance of psychological safety.
Yes.
People intend to talk if they're secure, if they feel safe. And this is where how conversations can be managed well, right? And how you treat your teammate, your direct report, it's a direct impact on how you shape one's culture. And if you're gonna collect what the experiences of each of the teams that you have in your company, it now dictates what your culture is. Now, for certain research, surveys being done, like Great Place to Work, and the like, they deploy surveys, right?
Yes.
Which being answered by the employees. Because aside from you showing to the public, this is your culture, this is how you observe it, the employees are the ones who can tell if your culture is okay or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you can see it from retention. If you see it from people moving out or people staying, people growing their careers,
Right.
people getting married with a colleague, right? So that's where I think one of the values which says a company is very inclusive.
With less judgment, and of course, psychologically safe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the metric is something
The
that's
ERGs. The creation of ERGs and the
Right.
expansion of ERGs is one of the great metrics that we have seen, and it has increased from 2021 to 2024 by 79% of those respondents from our survey back then. So it only means that once you have a community, which is the LGBT ERG, or like for your case, you're a champion of women in the workplace here in TP. You are now giving the voice of people like you to the management, and now the management has that responsibility to hear and to put action in those either complaints or appreciations, and it's also a natural what do you call this? It is critical for the organization to have executive sponsors for those who will represent those ERGs to the management. Yeah,
Right.
because it gives them relatability for one. Number two, it also creates accountability because you are now representing those voices to the management. So the increase of executive sponsors throughout the surveys that we have done in the past has contributed a lot when it comes to creating policies which would align to say that your organization is inclusive.
The reason I ask that is because I'm also in my head, I'm checking if it's something that's aligned with teleperformance, and I'm proud to say that yes, we have the ERGs here, we have the TP Pride, TP Women, and we have several clubs as well. And that says a lot, actually.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Now, very meaty conversation. I like it so much. Let's get down to the second question. Because you mentioned, the second question is actually coming from what you mentioned earlier, Michael, wherein that's the reason why PIFIP was established. So my next question is that how has PFIP directly influenced companies to have inclusive practices? Like what are your success stories? What are the company's success stories?
So working for 3 decades already, you're very lucky to have companies who has DEI and who celebrates your individuality and uniqueness, right? Authenticity matters because when I was starting out, we have to be discreet about our authentic selves. Reason why people like me transfer to jobs because once we feel uncomfortable, we have to transfer, right? So the people right now are very lucky. The workforce is very lucky to have inclusive companies like TP.
Yes.
Right. So going back to your question, so So I used to work in a multinational company as well. It's a big energy company. It's globally managed. However, despite that it's global and multinational, the benefits we have in global is not enjoyed in the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
Right? So we do not have domestic partner benefits. We do not still use the pronouns. So I happened to meet the vice chair of PFIP. That was still O'Neill. He works in a company across my office. So
Small world.
yes, it was just across. So I had to I was introduced to him and I asked, what is PFIP? And what do you do for companies like us, right? So in the absence of the SOGI bill, PFIP actually is a community of best practice. So PFIP taught me how to create your business cases, how do you sell benefits, inclusive benefits to your management, to your ManCom, and cascade it down to the company. So of course we started out with the no-cost benefits, that's pronouns, right? One of the things we implemented before was the use of pronouns, and one of the challenges we have is the restroom, right? Because really one of the challenge, why challenge it? Because most of the companies, the restroom are managed by the building, not the office, right?
Especially if the building is leased.
Yes, right. So those are the things that PFIP helped me on how to come up with a business case. I ask also other companies on what are their challenges, how they overcome it.
Thank you so much for that answer. And speaking of those practices and success stories, can you share a specific? Oh yeah, you have actually mentioned that the restroom,
Correct.
as well as the HMO. However, can you share a specific initiative or policy that may have been challenging to implement initially other than those two, but ultimately made a meaningful impact for the LGBTQIA+?
Actually, two. I think those are two policies. One really is domestic partner benefits.
Okay.
I had a challenge because it was majorly or commonly known as same-sex partner benefits, right?
Okay.
So one of the things that PFIP told me is really to change the name. Make it more inclusive. That's why it's called domestic partner benefits, regardless of your sex, of your gender.
Okay.
Right. So when we implemented the domestic partner benefits, actually, a lot of the people thanked me. A lot of the common law wife, the common law husbands, actually reach out to me and thank me of the benefits. If it weren't for the Pride Network pushing for the domestic partner benefits, so it also affected the allies as well.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
my
one. The second would be providing psychological safety and health programs. We were one of the few companies that provided contraceptives or condoms in our restrooms, right? And when we were doing the math regarding the stocks, it was the women's restroom who tends to finish most of the condoms in a week or in a day.
Finish the term.
Yes, finish. One of the service masters actually told me, Sir Michael, I had to replenish again. It's my third time to replenish the condoms in the female toilet.
Well, on the other hand, in the Philippines, there's a particular law that protects or pertains to sexual health in the organizations, right? So that's mandated by the Department of Labor and Employment. Another aspect that we are seeing in terms of having a challenge aside from the domestic partnership, it's now termed as equal benefits.
Yes.
Equal benefits. Is that people are still having that kind of stigma, declaring their same-sex partners to be part of their set of benefits or beneficiaries rather, and that's something that needs to be cultivated with internally within an organization. That hey, there's no wrong if you're going to declare them as your beneficiaries aside from your immediate family members, considering you're part of the LGBT community, and that is where the ERGs should play a very vital role along with the executive sponsors, so that within the organization, you can break the stigma and you can really maximize those benefits. Because if that's part of your roster of benefits, the company's still paying for it if you're not consuming it. Or
Yes,
yeah,
agree.
Correct. Another thing that we are seeing in terms of challenge aside from the stigma is that self ID is very important. Data is king, right? And for leaders, either if you're part of the operations or in support teams, especially in human resources, for along with the ERGs to craft programs, critical is that at least you have a view of how many employees are part of the community. And that is where the implementation of SOGS workshops would serve as a door opener for people to feel comfortable that no matter what gender orientation that you have or sexual orientation per se, identification, sex characteristics, you can be more you're living the most of yourself by being true at the workplace, right? And it's quite easy because you're gonna change the culture. You're gonna change the mindset. And for you to change the mindset, the first thing that you need to address is your unconscious bias.
Correct.
Right. And this is where the aspect of emotional intelligence for everyone, either you're you're a rank and file or you're part of the leadership team, plays critical for them to understand that no matter how you speak, how you dress, how you present yourself, you will not be ridiculed, right? And the more diverse the team is, the higher innovation you can get from not just the measuring how productive the team would be, but rather how you position that the connection of your personal values would also align to your organization's core values. And we're happy to see that TP has been recognized as part of the best workplaces list, right? That would be
for
in
8 consecutive years.
Correct, and congratulations.
Only first and only company
Right.
in the Philippines.
And
to
that
achieve
means a lot. It means that people like us who are part of the LGBT community can be ourselves. And another thing that we would like to focus on is that there are only few companies in terms of challenges or are availing or implementing trans benefits rather. So from availment of gender affirming surgeries up to counseling, because before they undergo the surgery, they need to be counseled by a psychologist. And then if that can be part of your HMO package, that would be entirely enjoying the same benefit of someone who's already a cisgender.
And that's something life-changing for the person, for the employees, specifically if your workforce caters to a big number of this community. And of course, if this specific community or this specific group in your company is something that also contributes to your performance or production, you don't want to lose them, right? And to your point when you said about you build your culture or you change or you shape your culture, it's not just really about shaping it or changing it, but if you have already established culture which the employee enjoys, then definitely you're going to attract more talents. And the caliber of the group of people that you have in the company is something that really says a lot about how you run the business. I really appreciate your thoughts on those. I'm so sad that we are approaching the tail end of our discussion because we are enjoying so much. But don't worry, because like what we told our production leader, we might have another session with you right in the future. However, I still have maybe 2 questions for you. Why is it important to rally belongingness? I know we have touched some of this earlier, but I want to get your solid thoughts on the most important things why we have to rally belongingness at the workplace. And this is not just about culture, but share your thoughts.
The previous answer of Ivan regarding benefits, right? So Ivan mentioned if you are trans, you have certain benefits, like your psychological sessions,
the counseling,
but also it's not only you being counseled, your family is being counseled as well. Okay. Your team is being counseled because they still need to know what transition is, right? It's because it's not only you that's transition, but your family, the people working around you is transitioning. So for me, the belongingness really is it's living the value, right? because like for me, I would say I belong if we rally, if I speak the language of the values of the company, and there's the mission vision, because typically people just go to work, people not even understanding or learning their mission vision and their values, right? For me, I could say I belong if I speak the values freely, if I know it by heart and practice it.
I strongly
Right?
agree.
And then for me, rallying it is really reminding us that we have to talk about it, we have to practice it in our daily life.
Can you work well if you're not that you can you work well if you don't feel that you belong to a team?
No.
Yeah. Basically, that's simple answer. That's the reason why we keep on rallying for belongingness, because we believe that it's also everyone's right to be who they are as a person, regardless of whatever identity they would like to be associated with. Another thing that we have seen in PFIP is that we're also advocating for intersectionality. This is where how people, cisgender ones, those who are allies, who can help amplify our voices, because we're tired of preaching within our own choir, right? Another would be how people with disabilities would understand LGBT ones, right? And those who are part of the indigenous people, right? Because each of those sectors have their own struggle wherein they can feel that they belong.
Yeah.
And if companies like TP already create avenues for people, regardless of gender orientation, they're already creating a platform wherein innovation can be increased.
Yeah.
Wherein culture is not just talked about within their own companies, they can also be amplified outside. And this is where you see appreciation of your employees for who they are and why they are coming in for work, not just because for money.
Right.
So those are the things that business leaders would need to understand, that in terms of belonging, you need to create a different set of lens. Because a person would have different set of identities and overlapping identities. For example, like me, I'm a gay person, I'm a dog lover, I have a 16-year relationship with my partner Romeo, so I'm Juliet in my Julieta. Yeah. So at the same time, I'm a breadwinner for my 2 senior citizen parents.
Yeah.
Right. So how
That's the intersectionality right there.
Correct.
It's
And
just one person,
correct.
one body, one soul.
Correct. And how I am also an advocate.
Yes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So how those identities can magnify the truest sense of self, at the same time would recognize you as who you are, so that you can be, in short, every time you come in for work, no matter how difficult the number of calls you're gonna take, the number of tickets you're gonna solve,
Enjoy
you
going to
still,
work.
you're still enjoying it, because this is where you're gonna thrive.
And at some point, you're going to be proud to tell people that, well, I am a woman, and so much more.
Yes.
So much more that you can uncover. Because I am not just a woman, I am so much more, just like what you said. And that's a really good example of your gender and your intersectionality. And at some point, of course, we don't want an employee leaving the company, because that person would say, I'm leaving the company because it's not aligned with my values and principles anymore. And I think that's the worst reason for leaving, when somebody says, I feel like I don't belong here anymore. And no company is perfect, right? And I'm pretty sure at some point we have teammates who would leave because they would feel that. But then again, teleperformance is always making sure that we have the ERGs, they are well represented, and that's the reason why you're here. And it's always an ongoing effort. If you can say that's work in progress, yes, we can't admit that, but we don't stop. Because you said you started when? 30 years ago? And look at where we are right now. We've gone so far. We've come so far.
I wish I was working
Now.
this year now.
Yeah.
Before my challenge in the past.
How you wish you're a newbie.
Yes.
I remember when I was my first year at work, I haven't seen anyone who's gay and a leader in the company.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
now?
So role modeling is very
Yes,
important.
But right now,
Right, there are too many.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Earlier, I was entering the room.
Which room?
This room where we're having our podcast. I feel happy and proud because I was invited. We were invited for TP.
Of course.
But what made me even more prouder was when I was introduced by DM to our deaf colleague.
Eileen.
Right?
Yeah,
Eileen.
yeah.
Right, and that made me more prouder. Right, because we're not just here seeing the ERGs for the Pride Network, but also seeing people like Eileen, who works in a company. And I
Eileen
think
is great.
one thing that we need to do as companies is to post them out, to share them across, that there are companies like this, right? Recently we had a job fair, and I was also surprised because we were marketing it. It's an inclusive job fair, and there was a big number of deaf and mute people applying,
Yeah.
right? So I think TP is in the best shape
Correct.
to really share that.
Correct.
What do you call that? Tell to people about it.
We have special recruitments for people with disabilities, and also that includes, of course, our deaf mute brothers and sisters here in the Philippines, and that's something that we always fight for. And we're able to get really good results, including Eileen. Eileen has been here for a really long time. I don't know for how long, but I've known her since. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I've known her ever since. So she's been here, and
the company is good because you have people staying longer.
I've been here for 18 years.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And yeah, maybe our next topic is like office romance,
Yeah,
boundaries, and still how to be professional, right? Because I've met the love of my life here. I started here as single. I got married, and now I have 2 kids.
Just like to add, Dream, before we end this podcast.
Sure.
When you value inclusion, it also creates opportunities. It gives you access to certain ways wherein you're gonna change your mindset. If you're a leader, you're gonna remove those systemic barriers in order for everyone to thrive. So keep on being inclusive.
Yeah.
And thank you, TP, for doing that.
and for me, I had to write it down so I wouldn't forget it. In closing, my message would be belongingness is not a destination. It's a commitment. It's a continuous commitment. Yes. So by keeping these conversations alive, we help build workplaces where diversity is valued.
Oh, thank you very much. Coming from you, Michael. I feel so proud. Yeah. Do you have any closing message? Because Michael already gave it. So do you have any closing message, or that was it?
More on having a lens of being inclusive. Yeah. No matter how difficult it would be.
I know, yes. Albeit the challenges, the sacrifices, and just like what Jana mentioned earlier, one of our advocates did. She said, I've been working during the weekends, and like, no, you can't do that. You have to rest. And that's not because she's forced to do that. It's coming from because she's passionate about it.
She's coming from a good place.
Yes, right. She's happy about it. She wants to spread the good vibes. Really good conversation. I feel like I don't want to end this podcast because of you two. Again, it's such an honor. It's my pleasure to be doing this with you. And of course, today's conversation reminds us that pride is not only about visibility, it is about responsibility. It is about creating workplaces where inclusion is reflected, not just in campaigns or conversations, but in systems, leadership, opportunities, and everyday experiences that genuinely make people feel they belong. Because when organizations move advocacy into action, something powerful happens. Just like what Ivan said earlier, we're able to create more opportunities. People become more confident, more engaged, more innovative, and more connected to the work they do. And perhaps that is the real goal of inclusion, not simply making space for people to exist. And I love this line because it's so powerful, but creating spaces where people can truly thrive. Thank you once again, Michael and Ivan, for joining us on this meaningful conversation. And before we wrap up, please do greet any workmates and projects of PFIP you want to highlight. You might want to plug something before we finally say goodbye to our listeners.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
So coming September, we'll be having our Pride Summit and Bagari Awards.
Oh.
Please be ready with your awardees, with your nominees.
Oh.
And please be ready with your representatives for the Pride Summit.
That would be happening on September 10 and 11 at
Awesome.
Space at One Ayala here in Makati.
Awesome. I'm sure somebody from our team will be taking care of it. All right.
Yeah. Another thing is that we're very proud to share that the leadership development program of PFIP is not just a one-day event. It's now a 6-month commitment, and we have gathered 71 enrollees, and we've seen people from TP.
Yes, we're always there.
Correct. It means that you have really dedicated leaders to enrich themselves and to know that in terms of valuing one's identity, there will always be development.
Coming from, I've worked for L&D in the past, so I so agree with you. And to everyone listening, may we continue building workplaces where empathy, authenticity, and belonging are not occasional initiatives, but everyday realities. This has been the TP Trailblazers signing off.
Yeah, thank you, TP.
The Trailblazer Podcast is an initiative of the HCRM team and is produced by Dylan Oteza. Executive guidance from Rachel Cacabelos.